Let's dig into the topic of narcissistic parents and disappearing toys and maybe even other items. Before we dig in, I'm going to go ahead and read the comment that has inspired this video. Let's get into it, shall we? Wait, missing toys? I thought that was just me. Would you be able to comment more on this? Daughter of a narc mother, no contact for 4 years. Okay, so before we get into my personal experience with this, how my mother disappeared my toys and all of that, I would like to ask you, if you are an adult child of a narcissistic parent, did you have the experience of your narcissistic parent disappearing your things? Please share that in the comment section. Maybe you just toss up a hand, or maybe you share your actual experience, whatever it is you're comfortable doing. Okay, now, my mother loved disappearing my things. It was one of her most favorite tortures of me, or ways to torture me. I've been talking a lot this morning. Anywho, see, and just to kind of go a bit backwards. So when I would go to my cousins' houses, there were two main houses I would go to, and then I had some second cousins, so I'm going to include all of them. All of them had an abundance of toys. Not like toys, you know, like in this like crazy way, but just a lot of toys, like toys for learning, toys for cuddling, baby dolls, you know, the whole 9 yards. A very, what I look back on, healthy amount of things to enjoy, to play with, to be stimulated by. And let's remember, all this time back, I mean, I'm 59 years old, there were no, like, maybe Atari at some point, but there weren't video games, and, you know, there weren't like, we didn't have devices. So toys really had a different level of meaning for us as kids. They were really our way to grow our imagination, right? Okay, so all that to be said, all of my relatives, all of the cousins, they had toys, which let me know that other people had toys. It gave me some contrast in my childhood that was very unusual for me to have. And when I go to my friends' houses, also they had toys. So also I got the contrast. With the rest of my experience with my mother, like my mother being nice to me in public and then being totally venomous behind closed doors, when I saw other moms of other kids, as much as I latched onto them because I was starving for love, I also thought that there was a good possibility, a likelihood that behind closed doors, like they were going through maybe what I was going through. Like maybe it was just an act kind of thing. And I didn't look at it as an act. I was always just very confused by my mother's behavior. Like how come she loves me when other people are around and hates me when no one's around? Like I didn't recognize that as being an intentional way of behaving on the part of my mother. That's why when people go, oh, they didn't know any better, they did the best they could. No. If my mother knew how to behave in public, which she did, and then behind closed doors, or the minute we were out of earshot, she could become incredibly cruel, but never did that in front of other people, that says that she had self-control, she knew what she was doing, and she knew right from wrong, and she did the best she could to hurt me, actually. I will go with that one. All right, back to the toys. Sorry, tangent. So I had very few toys as a child growing up. And that included in my grandparents' house, which I find so strange, because you would think that they would have corrected that. I mean, I lived with them for almost 5 years, but they didn't. They didn't really supply me with toys. I think I would have like one doll at a time, and that was about it. It was a very adult household. I'd play records in the basement and dance around, and it just really continued to foster my imaginary world. Also, them abusing me did that as well. In my mother's house, like I would have one Barbie at a time. I remember having a share Barbie, and if I got another one, the other one would disappear. Not, okay, we're taking this away. I would just get home and it would be gone. And uh, like, I'm just really looking back and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I didn't have, I would have a baby doll at a time or a stuffy at a time. And like the worst thing that my mother ever disappeared was my baby bunny. I had this bunny who was my confidant, was everything. And I say it was the worst, also it was the turning point for me where I recognized what she was doing. And I get home from school, I go to find my baby bunny, who I tucked into my bed and, you know, kissed goodbye and said, see you later. And I mean, I'm 9, 10 years old, okay? And I get home from school and the first thing that I go to do is run into my room to get my baby bunny. And at the time I was living in a condo building. There was only one other child in the whole building, I think. I didn't have friends after school. My mother never let people come over, like ever. So my baby bunny was really my best friend and my playmate. Bunny's gone. And I'm looking frantically. It doesn't occur to me that my mother has disappeared this bunny. And as I'm looking frantically, I clock my mother out of the corner of my eye, walking by the doorway, and I feel the smirk. And then I look, and she's watching me. She's letting me search for the bunny until, and that, well, actually, she walked by the door a couple of times. Like, I have told this story so many times, and every time I tell it, I feel like I remember something else, or some more detail, a little detail. But she walked by a few times, so she knew what I was doing. And finally, she stopped in the doorway, and she said to me, "Oh, are you looking for the bunny?" Yeah. Well, I put it down the incinerator. Which, by the way, looking backwards, this is that thing of gaining clarity around memories. It wasn't an incinerator. It was like a trash chute going into the basement of the building. But at the time, she literally used the word incinerator. And of course, I have visions of my bunny being burned to death. And she said, oh, it had a hole and little beads were coming out. After the bunny was gone, I didn't have any toys for a while, like nothing. I had my books. I will say this, I had a lot of books, which was great because, like, especially the Bobbsey twins, I wanted them to be my family. I would get lost in those books. And when I didn't have new books, I would reread those. But yeah, my mother used to do that frequently. And when people would give me a gift, you know, like for my birthday or something like that, inevitably, oh, I have too many toys, so something else would disappear. And she did it literally all the time. It's just one of those things of torture. I don't even have anything else to say about it. It was devastating. And actually, as a side note, after the bunny disappeared, I had this little mallet, you know, that you would use with those like little keys to play music. Can't think of what, xylophone? But I didn't have the xylophone. Of course not, right? I had this little mallet that my stepfather brought back from a trip, like really randomly. I don't know why. And so I took to carrying this thing around and it became my substitute bunny. And like, that's all I had. And one day I'm coming out of the elevator going up or down, I don't know, to the room. I was going up to the apartment, I remember actually. And I dropped it, you know, the little crack between the elevator car and getting out? I dropped it. And I was just devastated. Like, I immediately went down to the lobby. I talked to the concierge and the security people, and they're like, there's no way we can go and get it. So then I really had nothing. Yeah, that sucked. How about you guys? Share in the comments, and if you have any questions, please do ask them, because that's what helps me create content that you're looking for. Thank you for being here, and I'm sorry that we have this shared experience, but I'm very happy that we have found each other. I appreciate you being a part of our community. Thank you.